Hi, I'm David. I'm the CTO and co-founder of Toucan Toco. First, it's quite difficult to speak after a native American speaker, so sorry you have to endure my, Netflix learned English, so sorry about that. So today I'm going to tell you about data visualization. It's going to be like way softer than the presentations that you heard, so it's perfect to, finish the evening. Okay, and so, well, when we got invited by Serena to this data-driven event, it fitted perfectly some kind of timeline in our company because we just added some kind of new motto on our website, which is like successful company at data-driven. Nice slide, isn't it? And the subtitle is even more interesting for our use case today. In data-driven, we say that data is easy. Well, it's not totally true, but it means that we forgot the other part. It's a driven that's hard. What I mean by that is that we are very knowledgeable in producing data, insight, forecasts, and stuff. And sometimes, a lot of times, we're going to forget about how to distribute this data to the end users that's going to need it at some very specific spot to have an action. So our question at Toucan Toco is how we make data accessible to a lot of people that actually need it. And we summarize that by that small chart. Data resides in databases that are only understood by a few knowledgeable people. Maybe you heard of data exploration tools. So it's like, Tableau, Click, and stuff. You connect them to a database and you can create insights, dashboards. I think in this space we are all knowledgeable of that tool and we can make sense of it. But do remember that the 99% of people that work in companies and would benefit of knowing this data for their work, they are not knowledgeable and they have not been trained in the tools. So that's what we're trying to solve, to make data accessible to the masses, to make it simple and efficient. And for us, that's what data-driven means. So what I want to share with you today is a few ideas on how we try to make that vision a reality in our product. So it's a few tricks that you're very welcome to challenge and reuse if you're going to do some data visualization or if you're going to present your work of all the data you've made. And there's going to be 6 small points. Okay, first, animations. UI today, it looks a little bit like a Disney movie. We have like invaded of animations, and they are everywhere. Each time you open a browser, and each time you open even the simplest calendar application in your phone. So my question is, how could we benefit of animation in data visualization? So interactive part, be ready. I want to make a small test. So here is a ranking of the traffic in different shops. So in shop in Caen, a shop in Paris Sud, a shop in Angers, well, different cities in France. And I want to compare that to the turnover, because it's not because you're receiving a lot of clients that you actually sell products to them. So for example, let's look at, let's say, I don't know, let's say Clermont-Ferrand, for example, lovely city. So I'm going to try to switch that metric to the turnover. And when you make sense of what you see, when you know the relation between the traffic and the turnover, raise your hands and say yeah, I'm ready. I know how. I know if the correlation is positive or negative between the two. Yeah, it takes some time, isn't it? Oh. Yeah, because it makes sense. Have you found Clermont-Ferrand here? Cool. Because what I just asked to you is, without any animation, to make sense of all these movements that happened in just one click. So it's difficult. And why is that difficult? Have you ever played that game? When you have 3 glasses and you have to follow with your eyes the movement of the ball. Fortunately, magicians have just 2 arms, so there is just one thing moving at a time. So you can actually try to follow the movement. But imagine playing that with a magician that has 20 arms and 30 glasses. Yeah, it's going to be much more difficult. So that's why I just asked you to do. I base my point on the work of Jeffrey here and George Robertson, who are 2 researchers at Microsoft Research, and they wrote quite quite recently about animated transition in statistical data graphics. And they made a very nice video about what we're talking here about. So look at that bars, we're going to sort it. And if we sort them all at the same time, elements collide, so it's difficult. So if we just try another animation and we animate them one after one, you can just follow the movement much more easily. So that's what they call staggered transition. And they actually quantify how better it is. So here we're talking about sorting bars. So in blue, you have the effective of no animation, so it's not very effective to follow what's happening. In red, when we are animating but everything at once, and then when we are using a stage transition. So in Toucan Toco, we made sense of that, and we tried to make sense of this by creating some animations, so animating the value, and then one by one animating the bars. So with that, you are able to follow where Clermont-Ferrand goes, and actually here you can visualize that it's not moving in the ranking. Much easier. That was the first tip. Second tip. Have you seen The Incredibles? Yeah? Do you know that part? It's a fucking inspiring part. So I have no sound, so I'm going to dub it. Difficult. So the guy asked, I want a costume. He asked a designer, I want capes. Capes, it's very important for my costume. And the designer said, no capes. Literally like that. No capes, I want capes. Everyone has capes. No. Do you remember that guy? Remembers that guy? I forgot his name. He was doing some kind of mission, and he was like, having stuff. He was very proud. He removes the rocket, and because of the cape. So no capes. But it's just an outlier. And she said, no, there is other examples, like caught in a jet propulsor, and I really want a cape on an elevator, on other stuff. So, well, it's not because it's a dominant design that it's actually a good idea. So how can I apply that to data visualization? In data visualization, everyone 10 years ago started to use tooltips. Tooltips are kind of the capes of data visualization. Capes because it appears behind and it covers half of the screen, which is very not practical. For example, if you look at the chart below, if I ask you what are the evolution between 2007 and 2009, you can see the chart. So too bad. So we decided to remove tooltips and to keep only a side panel which is not going to move. And this way, you can move your mouse, you can touch it, and you can also, and the information is going to stay always in the same place. You're not going to be distracted of the information that is displayed to you. And also, it's much more easy to implement and to make work in every device. So it's perfect. And it also creates some kind of visual language that you can replicate in every visualization you want. So you want to display a map, you can also use that. You want to display a heat map, you can also use that model. And it also works on mobile, except that on mobile, as we have hands, if I put the detail pans on the side, it's going to be covered by your hand. So we decided to put it up. So it's very important to try it in real life to make sure you're not going to create problems by forgetting that there is a distance here in the palm of your hand. And of course, it works everywhere. So that's for the no cape part. Well, no tooltip. Third tip. Sometimes it's good to change point of views. Do you know this guy? Who recognizes it? Oh, please, René Descartes. Yeah. René Descartes is famous also for the Cartesian plane, which is x and y axis. And actually, when you search for chart in Google, you're going to find basically only Cartesian charts, like x-base and y-base. I don't speak about pie chart. Pie charts are evil, but it's another talk, so I'm not going to talk about it. So why is that? Well, I guess people use PowerPoint a lot, so it made sense to have some kind of landscape charts before. But when you put it in a phone, it doesn't really work out. You can see everything at once. You have to swipe in a not very easy way. Actually, there is just one phone company that tried to make people swipe like that. It was like Microsoft Windows Phone. And who has a Windows Phone today? That's what I think. So we, as we are coming from the web world, we say like, how are we consuming data in the web? Well, we scroll. It's a natural feed-like navigation, which is why I say the web is a scrollable world. It's not a painting. It's not a landscape. So we decided to do data visualization primarily scrollable. So you can scroll them, and you can scroll massive amount of data like you scroll your Facebook feed, and it's much more natural. And we put some kind of rule, like we keep vertical charts only for time series, because like time is really only represented horizontally, so it makes more sense. But leaderboard, everything horizontal. And sorry for Descartes. Okay, before the first thing, I want to know if you have heard of the only two hard things in computer science. I'm pretty sure someone must have heard this sentence. No, I'm really disappointed there. Cache invalidation and naming things. Of course you knew it. You must have read it. Well, I'm not going to talk about cache invalidation, but I'm going to talk about naming things. And so as I explained to you, what we're trying to do at Toucan Toco is to create some kind of data storytelling platform. We want our users to create applications that read themselves like a good book, not like a dictionary or encyclopedia or stuff. So we decided to stop asking them to create menus and slides and screens and stuff like that. And we decided to ask them to create chapters and sub-chapters. So they will understand that what we're expecting for them to create a good app is an app that you can crawl chapter by chapter, maybe one chapter a day, and maybe coming from one chapter to another. And we also stopped calling that a screen or maybe a slide. It's not. There is, in introductions, there is interactivity. We decided to call that a story. So with that, we're expecting people to change their state of mind when they're displaying data. And we put that vocabulary everywhere. Even the menu is called like the story library. With the words comes also the font. Well, you all know about Comic Sans. I'm not going to talk about it. If you use it, you're evil. Oh. So I'm a developer, and this is my usual screen of work, my terminal. And there is something really, really nice about that. It's called Monospaced Font. It's a font in which every character has the same space. Usually, people don't like monospaced fonts because like, it's hard to read when you're reading like a newspaper or stuff. So when you take a chart and you don't put monospaced font, labels look nice, but numbers, not that easy. Like they are not very, they don't seem properly aligned and stuff. In my terminal, numbers are really much aligned, so I can see really easily that the two first lines are one order of magnitude more than the other lines. In that, it's not even a chart; it's just a data table. And so, quick picture to represent that. Even if this number has the same order of magnitude, you have the impression that the first one is really short because the character 1 in a proportional font takes much less space than the 9. So in order to avoid this crumpy effect, we decided to use what we call tabular font in the web world, which means that every character, every numerical character, takes the same amount of space. And that allows a very quick comparison of order of magnitudes, which is very useful when you have like crump space and when actually your eyes read the length of the number before reading the actual number. And that's also very useful when you're using data table when we ask people to create applications. And last but not least, choose your battles. And this point is about like I told you what we do and what makes us different from the others, but here I'm going to talk you what we don't make different of the others. So we come from a web world. We're creating applications So, and our specialty is data visualization. It's not creating a swipeable menu like everyone does that. So that's why we decided to forget about like being innovative on some kind of pictogram and stuff. And for example, for the menu, it is and it will just stay a hamburger menu as you exactly saw in pretty much every app on your phone. That makes sense because people don't need any manual to use our application. If they can use Gmail, where there is some kind of menu like this, they will know how to use Toucan Toco. But history is not that easy sometimes. Sometimes you make bad decisions, and it's also part of your history, so I'm going to give you one. So we have this more information panel, which handles a lot of information, glossary to make sure people know what they're reading in the stories, commentaries, sharing options, export options, stuff like that. And we thought a lot about the right pictogram, the right icon to open this panel. So we thought of a magic wand. It was not our greatest idea. Another magic wand, some kind of brain idea. This one was really awful. Even more awful, the real brain with some kind of spark. This one has been like used everywhere. We even tried to use our logo. We even tried to use P for like plus. I don't talk about like the horror of localizing pictograms, so we forgot about this. And finally, we just get back to the basics. And we saw like in every application using material design for Google, they're using like 3 dots. It's so simple, it seems really like obvious. Well, it takes us 2 weeks to realize that. And using that, like no one else ever asked us where to find this information. So by by discarding choices you don't want to make, you're going to save a lot of time and you can concentrate on what's make you really different, which is all the points about data visualization I talked to you about before. And that's what I wanted to show you today. I hope you will take some good ideas from that and use it in your data visualization project or stuff. And if you have any questions, let's hear.
So perhaps I can start. How your clients are, sensitive about that? And this kind of way of designing application and stuff are pretty, picky. Is it something for your point of view? It became mainstream now, or does it fit with only, designers or whatever? What kind of clients do you have now?
It's interesting how people realize they need to use some kind of B2C stuff in their B2B world. It often comes from a frustration. Like there is a tremendous amount of people in companies that works to produce well-structured databases, nice insights. They work on a lot of BI tools and produce a lot of dashboards, and it makes sense for them. And then we arrive 2 years later. No one uses what they do. They are very frustrated. They feel like bore out. They don't know their use in the company, and that's why they come to see us, because like they realize the impact the information could have if it was like marketed correctly in the company, but they don't have the tools to do that, and that's why we're putting design at the service in our product.
All right, good evening. I was just wondering if you were A/B testing your designs with some customers or maybe inside of your team, so to make sure this solution, this design is better than the other one, because I'm assuming you're an expert regarding design, but sometimes your customer or the customer of your customer may not be very experienced with the design.
True. It's very difficult to get the real feedback loop, like of how actionable, what actions were created because of your applications. It's really easy to know who clicks on what, fine. But it's really easy to know this real impact. And why? Because there is a human that breaks the line of data. But that's also what makes interesting. A/B testing is not something we're using. Instead, we're using like very short releases. So we have like 1 release of a product by week. And sometimes we just try, roll back, and see how much feedback we gather. We have a great community of people creating applications, and we also have a great community of people using applications. And it's quite funny because sometimes the input from one, which is some kind of advanced population knowing how to manipulate data, are totally opposite to the other population response. And it's not that easy to say that we have only to take into account the feedback of the latter. So yeah, it's some kind of alchemy we have to find. So it's not A/B testing, it's more like try and error and really quick iterations.
Yeah.
Question, so just to clarify, if I understand correctly, what you provide, is it a platform or is it a component library, or is it both?
It's a platform. We'd like to share our component library at some point, but today, like everything, it's a little bit too much intricated to release some parts together. We do have some connectors and open source repository, but it's just a small part of what we do. But actually, it's good that you raise these points because it's also some kind of differentiator of to other companies. The object we want to produce is an app, what we call a small app, because we don't want you to put very big data in it, not because we can't handle it, but because your user can handle it and read it. And the small apps goes in opposition to, how can I say that correctly? To just chart. So the object we're producing is an environment for people to discover and make sense of data. It's not just a chart. And that's why we have not worked primarily as a component library.
And
as
when
of today.
And when you said that there's a community developing apps, you meant the people who do that specific kind of objects, or?
Well, we call them Toucan developer, but it's actually not real development. It's configuration of our products. We have a studio that allows people to configure the applications, and all this configuration is basically a big JSON, so that's the only difference between one app and another. So it's some kind of, they call it code, but it's just JSON. But still.
Thank you.
So last question, please.
So anybody that's ever run a pivot table, anyone that's ever run a pivot table knows that it's kind of fun to make it the first time, and refreshing it kind of the second time you have to do the same thing. It kind of gets old, and the third time you want to shoot yourself in the head. And it begs the question of, if I've got to bring my data to your platform, how do I refresh it?
Well, when you create an app, the aim of the app is to be updated over time. So you do the conception of the app once, and then it's just the data refreshing, and maybe you update the commentary, the editorialization of it, but we don't want you to rework if the data format is the same than before. What I was used to say when we created 4 years ago the company is that we aim to put back in their home all the internships where people are just doing pivot tables over and over, putting that into PowerPoints and doing the same thing over and over every month. So that was our first target. So the idea is, like, when you create an app, maybe you drop some kind of Excel CSV file first, but then you go into some kind of industrial phase when you replace your static data sources by connecting your data sources, and we have also some kind of small ETL based on pandas when you can drop Python functions and pipeline them together, and then it goes to our databases that you can query to make the stories. So yeah, the aim is at the end to produce a real applications. Otherwise, it would be just slides. You have to refresh it every month, and well, we're developers, so our aim is to automate our work and then go, to vacation and stuff. It's not to do the same thing over and over. So that's the point.
Thank you a lot.